The beginning, so to speak, is the oldest piece, not the easiest, but the oldest piece I was able to find from 1970, 1870, almost one century and a half ago, which is from a satirical Italian magazine. A few years later, in the early 20th century. This is what is considered, but well, by myself at least, but it's a very, very famous name, the father of all Italian humor cartoonist.
He was more like, he had this sense of absurd humor.
Yeah, it was a very sophisticated, but at the same time very plain, down to earth, common sense oriented humor, satirizing of how absurd habits and people behave when they permit themselves to be conditioned by the society status symbols and concerns about their position in society. Humor is very difficult to translate. But this is very much a situation humor. So text is important, but I hope that images, the art, is eloquent enough. This is a strong satire of an inspirational approach to art can be, because we see the typical artistical-minded guy in a room which is all messed up with instruments. He could be like your standard idea of a poet.
Creation process.
Exactly. And we see from the caption that his father wanted him to be a musician, and he woke up later at night to do what he loves best, which is accounting.
You know, I spoke to Rick Veitch, American cartoonist, and he told me when he came I think for Luca Comics 1 year, and Hugo Pratt, he came and he said, I have a present for you. I said, oh, okay. And he brought him to Bordello, you know.
Of course, of course.
So it was that kind of personality.
And well, he traveled around the world.
He had the different approaches to different
Absolutely, absolutely.
And maybe I was going to say maybe marrying a day after having a long night, so yeah.
He was, of course, maybe a genius when it came to find the right shot. This is simply an exercise in mastering when it comes to give us a representation, a sequence perfectly depicting a situation by simply just a position of shots.
Really like film directing.
Yeah,
It's
like a freeze frame in the film.
and but also when it comes to the whole, you know, he had always had, and especially in the last days, this very stylized, more and more synthetical approach to everything, starting from the human figure. This didn't mean in any way that he lost the sense of movement or the ability of moving human characters, and this is very heavily here. In a way, there's, if not nothing, very, very little, because he purposely, in my opinion, dirty all the way in order to be able to draw something wrong, anatomically speaking, but which works when it comes to express movement.
You know, we had one guy who was a cartoonist from Belgrade. He moved to Sweden, so he's not coming for these workshops. But he had a problem because he was doing the comics with the computer, and it very much makes the drawing too flat, too dead somehow. So I was trying to explain to him that sometimes it's important to be dirty in order to achieve something which is more like
It's
different,
stylish.
more
This can
aligned.
obviously be the case or not. It's a stylistic.
It
thing.
depends of the. It probably depends of the author, of the personality who has to solve these problems.
Something working for you
Yes.
usually can not work for
Yeah.
anyone else.
But
That person.
anyway, this kind of disfigured, slightly distorted things, they are good, I think, for the expression, if you know how to use them.
If you are good enough to make them work, people, artists, we usually use this term, work, which doesn't mean anything well defined, of course. It simply means I've been able to tell what I wanted to tell you in my own way. So this drawing, this image works. Of course, I can agree or not with you because there is a gray area which is our own taste, our own sense of images. But expert artists or artists which are in sync, in tune each other, usually find a consensus about what it is working or not.
And Sergio Topi,
Yeah.
he was published here, but I guess you don't remember him because he was
Of course,
Serbian
yes.
crew, because he was published in Stripoteka and these magazines in the 1970s.
He was one of the great masters of the after-war. He started very young, a few years after the World War II in Italy, late 40s, I think. And he was already very good, but for many years he started in quite a classical, traditional way when it comes to, as we say, when it comes to approaching the page, meaning grid, layout, how the panels are used, and how the shot are used to tell a story in a sequence. After starting late 60s, early 70s, more than 25 years after he started, he began to experiment and to change his approach to layout. And in the end, he was seen as one of the main experimentators, or one of the artists who took the page somewhat farther when it comes to expressing the storytelling potential of the composition. This, given his standards, this is a quite regular page, but I choose that because there is a romantic flavor. This is the old Antonio Vivaldi, the last days of Antonio Vivaldi, playing probably for the last time his music with his violin, and both by the figure, the expression, the posture, and both by some details conveyed by the captions. But captions are not so important here. This has got a melancholic mood, which is something very Sergio Topi was very good at. Kind of, if not experimental, not totally mainstream, publishing house called the Granata Press, which is called today for several things. Among other things, it was the one who made the manga phenomenon, the Japanese comics and animation, explode in Italy, something around 25 or something less years ago. This series is about musicians, and it was illustrated. These are illustrations, these are not comics, but the ratio, the idea was to make these stories about musicians illustrated by comic artists, by cartoonists.
Do you know whom else did they do aside from Jim Morrison and
No,
Jimi Hendrix?
these are the only two, as far as I remember. I think there was planned something about Rolling Stones, but It wasn't published. As far as I know, there's only 2 books dealing with musicians.
So we can say this is more like a documentary approach. They were speaking
Yeah,
about
there was
biography about what happened to them.
these are the artists. The book was by 2 writers, Pino Cacucci, yes. Since then has become quite a renowned Italian writer. I mean, the kind of writer winning prizes, and this is quite important. Living on his work, a fully professional writer, which is not so easy anywhere in the world. And
we have Robert, who is a script writer, so
you know how hard it is to make a living out of writing. And it was starting.
Almost a mission impossible, but
It depends on so many things. So yes, it's very hard to say the least.
I haven't told you that, but maybe you heard that one of the questions of the kids. We had yesterday there was a group of kids. Most of them were from the kindergarten, you know. So it was very difficult to explain an exhibition like this to them because they just told me it's going to be a school kids. So I didn't know how old they are. So we had to choose the words which are like appropriate for that.
like it's shiny or it's
Yeah, it's very difficult. And one kid, he asked, and why are these things, you know, his hair? You know? So I invented on the spot something that I cannot repeat, but I said, oh, it's because he was making music so expressively that there was...
But of course, this is a very imaginative shot, the ghost of the idea of Julian is playing, while in the background, which is the foreground in a way, the story told by Hey Joe is going on. Hey Joe, where are you going with the gun in your hand?
Yes, yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
And this is my favorite corner. I have a very weak spot, very weak spot, Sasha knows that, for, let's say, an artist, but he's a very renaissance man. He can do everything at its best. It's called Giuseppe Palumbo. Sorry. It's called Giuseppe Palumbo. He lives in my town, but it comes from a very important town in southern Italy called Matera. He's incredibly... He's from Matera. He's an incredibly talented artist. You can see this already, I think, but he's so many styles. He can draw in so many styles. He's so eclectic and so powerful when it comes to express something that really nothing less than a full exhibition would give it justice. And it simply happens. It's not that he's not musicians. He loves music as part of his work, as a background to his work. He's personal friend with musicians, bands, academic musicians with now limitation of sorts, and simply found music-inspired pieces by him. He was he did layouts and full design for, you can go and see it, for a website, the professional website of Italian musicians called Nicola Conte. You find the address here, nicolaconte.it.
He's one of the most famous Italian musicians
He's very...
in recent decades.
Yes, he's lovely. He does this kind of very soft, loungy jazz, very elegant, very sometimes sophisticated. And the website has been designed by Giuseppe Palumbo, who was expressly asked to write and to implement in a very specific way. You will see how, if you connect to the website, a comic story, the story of a musician, Nicola Conte, going around the world playing his music, but he was expressly asked to do a comic, to put in comic form the promotion and whatever the website is about, these musicians' activity and profession, and that's quite interesting. There are simply 2 panels from the from the story running on the website. The other two are two images to homage. This is taken from a book, which is a sister book to this one, about an Italian singer and performer who disappeared a few years ago, called Iannacci. Very loved. It was a very loved man. Italian Scalmani, the new director of Istituto Italiano di Cultura, is from Milan, and Iannacci was on the great, we say, cantori. People who, with music and songs, let Milan know all around in Italy.
Yes.
And loves Iannacci a lot. This is the same for Giorgio Gaber, who started as a cabaret actor, a performer, and ended like an intellectual. And he's a great professional. He can do everything, anything, in all the style you want. He's one of the very few who was able to, as the Americans say, slip into the shoes of Magnus, which is a great Italian artist working, the co-creator of Alan Ford character. And Giuliano was one of the very few artists who drew artists for Alan Ford after Magnus. And he loves music, and whenever he wants or can, puts, just like I was saying in the start, put some reference here and there as a funny or something, a music in his work. He's a prog rock fan, so he put this reference, this prog rock cafe, putting together music and of course the classical Star Wars bar scene where you can have anything going on in that moment. And the other one is simply a leaflet, a drawing for a flyer of a music festival in his town. Quite incidentally, I was there, so I have the original and I was able to scan from the original. This is a short comic story adapting a song by a hardcore punk band. There was this book collecting contributions, homages to local bands. This guy, Andrea Accardi, the artist, since then has become a good and well-known professional working both from the French and for the Italian market. This is the funniest thing I think we have today. A personal friend of both me and Sasha.
I don't know if he told you that he was in Pancho.
When?
It was for the Girl Festival.
This year?
No, it was 2000 and maybe 4 or something.
I was there with him.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
I forgot.
okay. It was one of the time I was,
Oh.
I remember that time. No, I thought it was yesterday. It was impossible yesterday. No, okay. And, we all know crazy. We all know that David is very nice and crazy.
Yes.
Crazy.
He was actually one of the first Italian cartoonists that I met in, I think it was 94 or 95, something like that.
Your first time was in Bari?
Yes, and he was the guest there. So.
Yeah. And he's, since from the start he has this double track, as we say, of playing in a band and being a cartoonist. And he always been able, in different time, with different results, to keep these two things together. Still today, he puts out at least one full book a year, and still tours with maybe one full record with his band. And he was playing in New York yesterday or 2 days ago, and I think they had a record track of more than 100 concerts in last year, 2014, and I think they're going to top this with even more concerts in 2015.
You know, one of the interesting things is that if you ask somebody who is into music from Italy, he'll probably know about Tre Allegri Ragazzi Morti, which is his band. And if you ask somebody who is into comics, he has to know about Davide Toffolo. So he somehow is present in both of these scenes, and he's very productive in both.
Extremely. I must say that despite his best efforts, these two scenes, his audience as a musician and his readership as a cartoonist, don't really communicate,
Yes.
don't overlap.
Sometimes
It
they
tries
don't.
to, but
If some people notice him from Tre Allegri Ragazzi Morti, they
Absolutely.
don't know that he's also
but
producing
they
comics.
don't know, and who knows, is curious about that, they find that peculiar, which is, but very rarely, as far as I know, is tempted by following Davide in his other artistic activity. And
And when he plays live, he has a mask.
yes, always.
Always.
But not to keep any secret, there are so many pictures with them without a mask, but they like to dress that way when they play. The writer of Ken Parker, which is a very popular, loved character. Probably Ken Parker has been for a certain time the most beloved comic character in Italy. Simply plays guitar. He started as a very young man writing songs. He also, I think, had a short stint, a short time as a performer in small theaters, in cabaret, in nightclubs. He always had this personal passion. So whenever it works, whenever he's got the chance, he puts somehow his songs in his comics. This is simply the opening page from a Ken Parker story, which is called The Ballad of Pet of Shane, of course. And the ballad is an actual song. Giancarlo Berardi, the writer, wrote and sung and recorded, and it is used at the Fil Rouge as a leitmotif, crossing all the stories starting from page 1. If you do some research on the internet and on eBay, you will find copies of this vinyl, at 45 RPM, published maybe in the 80s, late 80s, which is the recorded version of this song. Well, this is very funny because when you have vampires and a rock band, the result, you put the two together and you have fun, basically.
And you know, Dunkirk is actually regularly connected with
Yeah.
Balkan.
Yeah, this is from a series revolving around Balkanian characters, which is the son of a human and of a strange kind of super vampire, a master race which secretly has been ruling human history. And he goes all around the world fighting against his father's race. Like vampires do, they create vampires, and here's a full rock band of vampires performing in the swamps of Florida, which
Sounds natural.
absolutely, like you say that and it is already funny. Dylan Dog is another Bonelli character who simply loves to relax and concentrate playing his clarinet. And from that come ideas, come solutions to his problems, or something else, creatures from you don't know where. Well, these are simple examples from cover designs for music album. Actually, 45 RPM smaller. This.
Actually, I just explained that Visual Records, he was like quintessential for the people who were reading comics in the 70s here.
Really?
But later generation, they
I
didn't
didn't
know so
know
much.
that.
Yes.
Well, he considered one of the innovators of Italian comics when it comes to shot. How scenes are put. Very often when talking about crafts and the recurring word is kinematic. He started actually as an illustrator, and this is what I discovered along the way. He did many illustrations for albums, music albums. He did so many more than I thought, because for years and years he didn't used to sign his work. So there is a line of research now of private collectors and people looking in flea markets, browsing through all the vinyl collections, looking for something looking crepaks, which you can't be sure, but you can maybe judge with some kind of keen eye.
So they're like a special kind of expert,
Absolutely.
just tracking these things.
Absolutely, because now we know, we are aware that it is so much more than what it went official.
Yes.
And this is an example of how we like to introduce some kind of, nothing really sophisticated, but when he was given the chance to illustrate 3 records, he played with single image, so that by color and by composition it could be seen like a moving scene. You can take that like frames.
Plus, if you were a fan, you would buy 3 records, I guess.
These were 3 records,
Yes.
and the same image was.
Was it like the 3 different versions that were published of the cover, or is
No,
this the single cover?
No, it's the same. These are the 3 records you see, volume 1,
Ah, okay,
2,
yes.
and
Oh,
3.
okay.
3 different records. He did one single image. This is the original image. He cut it here, put this on the left side, so that with this kind of juxtaposition could look like a sequence of frames. It's a joke, a graphical or visual joke.
And Liberatore, he's a kind of a legend of the 1980s, I would say.
He's still alive and kicking, still working.
But here it's also like Krepaks you will connect with the 70s. Liberatore is somebody that you will connect with the 80s.
Yes, this is the period when he exploded like a force of nature. Liberatore is one really, we say in Italian, nato con la matita in mano. He was born with his pencil in his hand. Totally self-taught.
How can you learn this in art school, you know?
And Frank Zappa was a fan of his, and there are pictures of him and Frank Zappa in Italy when Frank Zappa did an Italian tour, this tour. These are Italian cities. And when the live record was out, we wanted the Liberatore to do the cover.
It
Cover
also
and
speaks-
back cover, of course.
Sorry, it also speaks about how decentralized Italy is. It's a great thing that you can go to the towns which are not it's not Milano, it's not Rome, and you can see like the world-class acts, concerts and stuff. That I think is something that we have to learn from their experience, because here it's still something like it's a kind of surprise to have something like Monica is doing.
Hello.
The festival, which is supposed to be not the local, merit, but also of national. So, yeah.
I see.
We should learn from you.
Not for me personally, but this is the last piece, a recent one. Is simply, well,
It's also
I like it.
common friend, yes.
Yes, Andrea Bruno, which been to bunch of
Yes.
one, maybe 2 times.
Maybe 2 times.
Maybe 2 times. And the first time was 2004 with Davide. That time.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, he's a man of surprise because he was not officially invited to the festival.
No, it was.
He just
went together with the other one. You know,
I
yeah,
remember
yes,
that he just appeared on the festival one
Yeah.
day, and it was great, you know.
He's
He just
so
came to
strong.
Portugal.
He's a great artist. So strong with black and white. And recently started to work with color, but you see still you see how dark nuances and black spots are still very important. But for some works, is experimenting. Well, not from yesterday. This is 5 years ago, 2010, with color. And I simply like this piece. Is by a relatively new performer and singer and storyteller, which has got a very peculiar nickname, which is a full sentence. Yeah, nothing special. This is a great piece, a beautiful image, a piece of art.